Climate change, though a controversial topic, is a very real issue.
Emissions of CO2 and other greenhouse gases are heating up the planet and making sea levels rise by melting ice caps.
When the sun's light makes its way to Earth, some stays in the atmosphere's heat and the rest will usually reflect back to the sun.
However, greenhouse gases have a heat-trapping effect that will cause more of this energy to stay in Earth's atmosphere.
This is what causes the Earth's surface temperature to rise and can cause disastrous effects.
Additionally, some greenhouse gases, known as CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, can deplete the ultraviolet light filtering ozone layer of our atmosphere.
As the layer depletes, the amount of deadly UV light making its way to the Earth's surface increases.
Exposure to UV light can cause skin cancer, eye damage, and immune system damage.
In addition to flooding coastline cities, this releases vegetation from under the ice of Antarctica, freeing plants that produce toxic gases. These gases have been trapped for thousands of years, and some are greenhouse gases.
These gases can amplify the already troubling effects of greenhouse gases, as well as further pollute our atmosphere with toxic gases.
These greenhouse gases then heat up the Earth's atmosphere and melt more of the ice caps, releasing even more vegetation and hence more destructive gases. Soon you realize that we are throwing ourselves into a spiral.
As the ice caps melt, cold water enters and cools ocean currents. This cooling, unless stopped, will cool Europe and North America. There's also a chilling possibility that this phenomenon could send Earth into another ice age.
And guess who's doing nothing about that?
Our very own President, Donald Trump.
In fact, scientists estimate that the backing out of the historic Paris Climate Agreement will set our country back technologically, as this will halt all government-sponsored green energy projects.
So the question is, why?
Trump ran for president with one of his main promises being to benefit the corporations.
Trump has also stated that he believes that climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese.
Ironically, though they have some of the worst pollution in the world, China has been making excessive efforts to limit emissions of CO2 and other pollutants.
However, there is evidence that global warming is a real issue. NASA charts from 1984 to 2016 show that the Arctic ice caps have melted a significant amount.
In addition, in the 1950s, carbon dioxide levels were less than 300 parts per million cubic meters. Currently, they're at 400 parts per million cubic meters.
The stakeholders in this controversy include large oil and industrial companies, Donald Trump, young people, and old as well as developing coastline cities.
One of the cities at risk of future floodings is actually very close to where we live, Boston.
Some counterclaims are that green energy would cost too much to convert to. Since many of these companies are benefiting from the use of fossil fuels, they and their stockholders don't see a reason for changing their company.
This is done mainly with the idea that because climate change isn't directly affecting their company right this minute, there is no need to change until it becomes a larger issue. The thing is, unless we prepare for the worst, by changing to green energy now, we might not be able to correct our mistakes before it's too late.
Some evidence for people who don't believe in climate change is that we haven't been tracking Earth's climate for a long enough time. However, evidence from NASA shows that carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere are at an all-time high.
This isn't just a small bump when put on paper graph. It's a massive surge compared to all else that we've ever recorded. Additionally, the amount of carbon dioxide has grown proportionally with global temperature, and the Arctic and land ice levels have plummeted while the sea level has risen.
To deny a correlation between these events would simply be scientifically incorrect, particularly since we started noticing them just as gas-producing industry began spreading across the globe.
Another piece of evidence people who don't believe in climate change use is that the winter season is getting longer. This is true, and it is also why scientists also call global warming climate change. This is because throughout the rest of the year, the sun heats up the Earth and the greenhouse gases trap it.
This heat melts the Arctic ice caps, which in turn sends cold water into warm ocean currents, and ultimately sends Earth into a colder, earlier, and longer winter.
Also, some people who don't believe in climate change have become so desperate that they're making up their own random evidence, like the Arctic ice caps have grown 50% since 2012. They have also said that there is no scientific proof that climate change is real. In layman's terms, these claims are outright bogus.
This issue is something that everyone will be affected by. Climate change is changing the Earth rapidly and right as you're watching this video, but when climate change will be at its worst, it is estimated to be only 1 to 200 years from now.
These drastic changes will include sea levels rising 10 feet and possibly another ice age, as mentioned earlier. UV light exposure will greatly increase the skin and eye cancer rates throughout future generations of the world.
Some ways you can try to stop climate change is that you can write a note to your local representative telling him or her to speak up and try to use more green energy in your town. Our local representative's name is Michael Day. His email address is michael.day@mahouse.gov.
Another way you can help is to try installing solar panels at your house, which use energy from the sun and not fossil fuel burning facilities. Also, solar panels are less expensive than fossil fuels in the long run.
In conclusion, we want to convince as many people as we can to help our planet by switching to green and more environmentally friendly energy resources.
We want people to try and stand up to our government and tell them that we need to care about ourselves, the planet, and generations to come. Thanks for watching.